Welcome aboard the System76 Transmission Log. Our broadcast is about to begin. This is the latest on System76 computers, manufacturing, and Pop! OS. Now for your in-orbit crew.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the System76 Transmission Log. I'm Alex.
And I'm Emma with no voice.
Emma has swallowed a frog.
Ribbit. So I don't have a voice for this show, but I'm going to do my best.
How did you lose your voice?
I just came back from the most incredible scale conference of all time, and I talked to hundreds of people, and I can no longer talk.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked to hundreds of people in ages, although the podcast counts, I guess.
It was a lot of peopling, for sure, and I loved every second of it.
Well, sucks for all the people who want to talk to you now. You're out of voice.
Yeah, just going to take a break for a week.
I think that's called a vacation.
A speaking vacation. We did have a lot of fun at Scale, though. We actually got to hang out with Jupiter Broadcasting quite a bit because they had a meetup at this little taco joint, and it was like 2 full rooms of wonderful nerds just hanging out, talking about all things tech and Linux. And we also went to laser tag with the Jupiter Broadcasting group. So I think that was like the highlight of the team's trip was getting to see them and have that social networking time with them.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure with those guys. Always a fun time, for sure.
And our Cosmic demo was a total hit. I mean, everyone was loving the whole press the button thing, and the planets were really cool, how it was tied to the cosmic theming system, and you could see your colors come to life in a little universe on the background, and I think people really enjoyed that. I thought it was fun to watch people's faces after they hit the button.
I heard we lost the laser tag war.
I mean, it depends on who you ask, but yes, we lost. We lost really bad. It was like a landslide loss.
There goes my $5.
It was really funny because Carl and everybody were trying to say that the losing team had to shave their heads because they really thought that we were going to win. And I'm really glad that we didn't agree to that because I would have a shaved head today.
You would have lost your voice and your hair in the same weekend.
That would have been really unfortunate.
A very memorable time.
Yeah. So let's jump into the news about the Thelio Mega.
Yeah, let's do it. We have a pretty mega-centric podcast for you today. Thelio Mega has been redesigned with cooler CPU temperatures, quieter fans, and more room for graphics, so it can now fit a third NVIDIA RTX. So lots of graphics for our AI, machine learning, deep learning machine. Very exciting. And I believe it is now on sale. Doop-a-doop-a-doo, scrolling down.
I'll just tell you so you don't have to keep scrolling. It's $500 off right now.
So Mega is on sale. It has been confirmed. It is $500 off. Get on that now before the sale ends March 27th. We have a bunch of products off, actually. Workstations is up to $500 off. Desktops up to $188 off. The Lemur Pro is $100 off. Keyboards are $40 to $60 off. Lots of spring savings as you clean house from older technology.
Yeah, it's time to hop on that keyboard savings train right now.
Is that another frog joke?
It was a bunny joke for spring and Easter. Launch Heavy's $40 off, and I think a lot of people will want that keyboard, so we should tell people to buy it.
We should buy it.
Okay. Well, that's our spring sale.
In other Mega news and in our events news, Thelio Mega is going to be at PNY's booth at GTC on March 19th to the 1st, and it's going to be running a production environment. So that includes Blender, OBS, and Unreal Engine, all tools that work on Linux, and just to show off the graphics might of the machine at the conference. And then at the end of April, April 25th to 27th, we're going to be going to LinuxFest Northwest. Carl hath returned with a talk about Cosmic. See how far Cosmic has come, talking about the Cosmic the progress that has been made on Cosmic since the last talk he gave at LinuxFest Northwest. And then, Emma, we're hosting a lunch on Saturday.
Yes, with the Jupiter Broadcasting folks, it's kind of been a tradition for the last couple of years that we've done a nice barbecue on the Saturday of the fest. But if it's raining this year, we might check the weather a couple days before and change it to a different type of lunch because it was a little rough last year. But I think it'll be fun regardless of whatever food we choose.
Yeah, it's always a fun time with those guys. If you do want it to be a barbecue and it is raining, I'd recommend bringing your own barbecue sauce.
Jen?
If you bring your own barbecue sauce, then it's still a barbecue. Let's go ahead to our interview with Luc.
So I'm Luc Morvan. I'm actually French, 42 years old, father of two boys, and currently living in Abu Dhabi in the UAE.
So what are you currently working on?
I'm probably coming from a pretty different side of the computer business. I'm working for a company which is providing very special leasing services. We're actually leasing aero engines to commercial operators. So originally the company that I'm working for, we've been providing such services on more like a financial service, like financing aero engines, they're expensive assets, and then leasing them on a very long-term basis. And we're also now supporting shorter-term leases, which probably not aware of that, but whenever an engine is going for maintenance, usually a lease engine is required to keep on operating the aircraft while the engine is being maintained and overhauled. So that's the very specific business that I'm working in.
So my understanding is it sort of optimizes the lifespan of the engine with the costs.
Correct. So that's the purpose of the maintenance. But what I've been working on is basically to provide and to develop a simulation tool, a simulation program that is specifically targeting the lease business. And therefore, it is a mix of commercial understanding, so who's operating what and where and under which kind of conditions, a mix of the financial modeling which is required for managing expensive assets, and then, of course, a lot of the knowledge that is being fed into the simulation model is actually the technical knowledge around the engines. What is making them feeling tired sometimes quicker than others? And all of that is then being blended together to provide an estimated time on wing for a particular engine to achieve.
And what do you hope to see from the impact of the app in the aerospace industry?
So the way that I look at the app, it's something that I don't think currently truly exists, having certain apps that are more targeting the management in the sense of the I don't know, kind of CRM basis, managing the assets for when it comes to records. Some of the ERP system are tailored to also manage engines, but there is no such thing that is allowing you to evaluate the time on wing. It's also allowing you to evaluate the value of your engine based on the internals. So somehow I think that this is the perfect asset management tool because it's able to provide you with an estimated value for the parts, but also for the ability of the engine to fly, which ultimately is actually the base for understanding the valuation of such an expensive asset and to manage it in a certain lease environment and to project your cost and earnings from that particular operation.
And what sort of software are you using to build this app?
I have to say, maybe we can discuss that a bit later, but it's pretty basic when it comes to what I'm using to develop it. It's Visual Studio. The apps are, so there's two. There is a CRM that I'm also currently working on, and that is supposed just to manage the engines in the sense of who's offering the engines to the market, how do you track these opportunities, what is the status of the opportunities. And these two apps, the CRM and the data simulation tool, they're all written in Python. They're actually writing data and taking data from a MySql database, and I'm using the Streamlit library. I came to the computer world and to the coding very late, actually 5 years ago, and I think that's a reason why I just wanted to say, okay, it's already challenging for me to learn Python, to code in Python, and to actually to reach a level where I'm able to create the tool that I wish would have existed when I started my journey in this career. And therefore, when it came to the visual, how the tool would actually look like and kind of designing that web app, Then I said, okay, what kind of fancy stuff can I create by just using Python and not having to learn anything new or not having to go too deep into new learnings, and then streamline. And I thought, okay, that works pretty well and it looks okay.
You said you came into computing 5 years ago. Was that when you first started using Linux, or was there...
It's slightly after. So I had that very old computer. I think it was back in 2016 or 2017. Didn't know what to do with it, and I just wanted to have it in the living room to play some music. Time, of course, we're not using Spotify, and everything was in a hard drive in MP3 format. So the Windows computer I had was clearly not up to the task. It was already starting not to start properly and so on. Well, I would say typical Windows stuff. So I was looking at other options, and I started to install Ubuntu on it just to understand how that is working. So I had very, very limited knowledge and very limited use cases with Linux. And actually, right after, I think I purchased iMac, and that iMac became the kind of standard family computer. So my wife and I were always using the iMac. And then we moved to Singapore, and I think in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, we had to go through the Catalina update, which was then changing the 32 bits into 64 bits. And that is when something terrible happened. I originally purchased the Microsoft Office Suite as a standalone program, and that was the 32 bits version that I purchased. And then after I did the upgrade with Catalina 64 bits, that app was no longer available. So I just wanted to just get installed with or get the 64 bits package installed. And that was not available anymore. Now it was all under subscription for yearly subscriptions, I believe. And that drove me absolutely crazy. I nuked that Mac OS, I think, the day after, and I installed Linux on it. Yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
never,
that
ever.
change drove me crazy as well. I ended up, instead of going back to a Microsoft Suite, I ended up using Scrivener. It's a screenwriting tool, and I think they have some other layouts as well, but that's what I use in my personal time.
Yeah, I was outraged. I was like, how is that possible that I purchase a legitimate product, and 6 months later I have to make the choice about throwing it in the bin and not being able to use it anymore, or having an outdated one. And that was really painful. I think it was actually more painful for my wife, because the day after she had to use something she's never used before. It was a bit difficult. I was distro hopping a lot. It was like one day she would be using Manjaro, and the day after it was back to Ubuntu. And then I think I even put i3 as I call it, I think, that very...
window manager?
Yeah, the window manager. And yeah, that was not, that was probably not the right one to install when you want to federate your family around a proper OS. So I think that's how I came along with Pop OS. And because I was learning Linux, I almost had to reinstall every 2 months, because I was breaking something. I had sufficient knowledge to break things, which is to believe that you're confident enough to go into the terminal, copy-paste comments from the internet because there's something that is not working, and realizing that was absolutely not what was supposed to be done, and you just kind of broke it, which is most of the time okay, but not when you don't have the knowledge to actually fix it. So I went, reinstalling distros after distros, and then I came across Pop OS. I think it was probably like 6 months later or 7 months later, and that one stayed for probably an immense 6 months in a row without the requirement to reinstall it. I think it was probably driven by me getting a little bit more acquainted with Linux, but since then it was then always Pop OS, and since then all of the computers are at home, they're only Linux computers.
Well, I know our engineers especially would be happy to hear that. So is Pop OS how you found System76?
Yeah, actually, yeah, that was the entry into it. Yeah, it was working smoothly. It was very easy to use. I think it has that very how do you call it? Probably very pure kind of view when you first open it and start it. Then it's not overwhelming when it comes to the windows popping up everywhere or the amount of options being available. Everything is available, but I think it's pretty sleek. That's how I would define it. And because it was very stable, then that kind of became the norm. And when I had then the opportunity to dump that iMac and actually reinvest that money into a new device, then I said, okay, I think it makes sense that I'm purchasing a computer which comes already with Linux. I think for most of the people using Linux, they always have that greater good kind of cause behind it, saying, you believe in open source, you believe in what you call it, data, the fact that you're controlling your data, that you're not spilling information over to third parties. And I thought for me it was kind of important to not too sure if that's the right English expression to say, to put your money where your mouth is, and therefore to actually also from a consumer point of view then actually start buying products that are in line with that motto.
Yeah, and especially these days with, constant surveillance, basically, when you buy a computer from the company you buy it from. It's nice that there's this people-first system out there.
Yeah, it's basically the only system you can trust. And maybe, as I said, I came to Linux quite late as a daily user. So it was towards the late 30s, and probably then more towards the early 40s. It is true to say that it's taking time to learn something new. Is it worth it? Absolutely. But for me, it's the same journey that learning coding. It is absolutely the same logic, is that you want to learn something new and you want to do it also either because the values behind it are in line with yours, or because you believe that this will help you growing and it will help you actually learning something new and keeping interested. So for me, everything was linked. And we were at the very beginning also, I was buying, these Raspberry Pi computers and then trying to do, programs with the kids and so on. And it's just like you put you put a little bit of time into it, and then without even realizing it, then you spend a lot of time into it because it's actually fascinating. And what became clear to me is that with that Raspberry Pi computer, I was actually able to do probably 20 times more things than I was able with the iMac, simply because then you start realizing that all you have is GPIOs, or you can create your own program, and that program can do whatever you ask that program to do. And then suddenly the weakest computer I ever purchased was the most powerful one, because I understood how it was working and what you could potentially do with it. And that was only after a couple of months using it, meaning that actually in today's world, I probably still know nothing about it.
It's a very interesting way to put it, of the weakest computer you own being the most powerful, just because you know how it works and how to make it work for you.
Exactly.
Just
So
fascinating.
now I'm really bragging around with my my Data Pro, but still, it's probably way too powerful for what I'm using it for. But it's when you purchase a computer, you sometimes close your eyes and don't don't want to be too realistic with your ambitions.
Well, and there is a level of future-proofing, too. As time goes on, things are more advanced, take up more resources, so it's good to have those on hand for a while.
Absolutely. I think that's the way I see it. It may be actually a little bit less relevant for the Linux device. I tend to believe that they keep their stability and their reliability through time more than any other, actually.
You were talking about learning with coding. Is there something you're currently learning how to do on the Darter?
Well, recently it was more actually the integration with the MySql database. I think these are the latest updates that I've done on the CRM side and on the simulation tool. So being able to have something a little bit more stable than either the coded lists within the code itself, or even some Excel reads. So that's what kept me quite busy. Yeah, as I said, it's my level is pretty primary in a sense, so it's taking me quite a lot of time to reach a level where you believe that you are building the right tool. If you only focus then on how it looks like, it still looks the same, which is somehow driving a little bit my wife crazy when she sees me spending hours and hours, and on the front end there is absolutely no difference. She's like, hey, was that really required? Of course it was, yeah, because now it's based on a proper database.
So what's next for the app? What are you excited for with next steps?
So I think the next step for me with regards to these two apps is basically to create just one out of them, because somehow in both apps you have the same object, which is an engine. So you have the engine object created in each, and it's just basically being able to have that simulation model allocated to the engine serial number that you've created through the CRM, so that you can actually manage the commercial opportunities, but at the same time manage the simulation models. That's the next step for me. But still have to find time to go through, because it is probably taking me more time than someone else to develop that, but I still want to do it on my own. I said it's more like a personal kind of sense of accomplishment rather than truly looking at the end product and seeing it as a product itself. It's more like the journey. And I think that's what matters. So I started the journey. I think in my mind, I see exactly what I want, and I just need to collect the appropriate knowledge throughout this journey to be able to reach that point ultimately.
Well, we're wishing you the best. It sounds like a great tool that's gonna populate the industry soon enough.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We're going to play Emma's Keyboard Antics. Without looking at the webpage, your eyes need to be closed. How much does the launch keyboard cost right now?
The middle one?
Yes.
Let's see here. Without looking, I know the launch price. I want to say... Hang on. Thinking. Remembering.
Thinking too hard.
No, it is $230.
Womp womp. A whopping $60 off right now. I was going to do like launch trivia, but I feel like you might have or might not have known the answer to that question. So
What was that question?
it was the question about the price. That was the question.
But you said there was another question.
Yeah, you would know the answers to those. Like, how many keys does the launch light have?
Launch light. I don't actually think I know that.
Well, I misinterpreted.
79?
It's 70. No, 70. All right. Good job. You were close on the whole price thing. But
Do
yeah,
I get a
we should...
participation prize?
No, but we should plug the launch one more time because it is 84 keys of incredible typing goodness.
You heard it here, folks. 84 keys, $225, fully configurable. That's like this number here per key.
All right. That's our show for today.
Thank you for joining us, Emma. Thank you for making me a person you can talk to today after being out-peopled over the weekend.
You're welcome. I'll see you next month.
See you next month on the System76 Transmission Log.
Over and out.
Bye.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This has been the System76 Transmission Log. For more inspiration, check out the website and follow us on social media. On your descent back to Earth, please keep your hands and feet inside the transport beam at all times. Captain Sign-Off, in transmission.